The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
So it was written by a child who was reminiscing about his parents. Now his parents, this took place in Eretz Yisrael. They were very, very, very poor. They grew up very poor and everything. They weren't frugal, the parents, just they had to be. They had to budget everything because money was very tight. And so this child was describing an experience that they had that everything was very, very b'tzimtzum. They didn't buy anything extra. They never went to a restaurant in their life. They never spent, no luxuries. They had a very happy life. It doesn't mean that they were suffering, but everything had to be very exact. There was no room for any extra. And that's how they grew up. Once a year, they would go on a family trip together, this family. And it was a very big deal, they were going, but even there, everything was budgeted. There wasn't, they weren't, the father told them exactly what the itinerary was and exactly what they were going to eat. They didn't have, he didn't want to hear on the trip, could we stop off there at the bowling alley and could we go do laser tag? Every single thing was already set in stone. This is what we're doing, and this is exactly how much money we have to spend, and not a penny more. So they were driving to Tveria. That was where the trip was. And they were excited. They got in. They didn't have a car. They had to rent a car, and everything was... Anyway, they were driving, and one of the kids needed to go use the restroom. So the father, said, "All right, we have to go." He didn't want to go to any treifena restaurants because they're very frum. They wanted to, they're very makbid not to do anything wrong. So, he drove further until finally found a kosher restaurant. And the boy the father takes the son out of the car. They go into the restaurant. And he asks the father asks the waitress, would it be okay if my son uses the restroom? We're not really intending to eat at the restaurant, but would it be okay if my son uses the restroom? So she was like hesitant, but she said, okay, do it quickly. So while he was using the restroom, the father was standing there waiting for him, and the head waiter comes out and chaps, he sees a charedi, he sees that he's not really eating there, he just came to use the bathroom. He starts screaming in front of the whole crowded restaurant, the whole place shushes. He says, you people, you charedim, you come in, you want to use our toilet, this is not a public restroom here, you have to eat here, and how dare you come in and use our restroom, what do you think we are over here, we're running a business, you want to eat, fine, but... So the waitress was so nervous. The father had a real excuse. He got permission from the waitress to use the restroom. It's not such a stretch to say that. But he looked at the waitress. The waitress was crying. She was so nervous she was going to lose her job. And so listen to what the father did. The father went and he said to the head waiter, he says, no. He says, we're eating here. We're eating it. We need a table for 9. There were 7 children plus the father and the mother. We're eating here. The kids never ate in a restaurant in their life, but he was so makbid that he didn't want to embarrass this waitress and make her lose her job, that he went and he told all the kids come out of the car. The kids were stunned, what are we doing? We don't eat in restaurants. That's not something our family ever did. They never went to a restaurant once in their life, and they sat and they ate, and they were, the waiter came over and they were going through the menu and they picked out what they wanted, and baravchos, nicely. Kids didn't know but the child that went to the bathroom understood, and he was the one writing this letter. And they enjoyed themselves, and then it came time for dessert. So came time for dessert, and all of a sudden, all of the waiters were lined up, and they all brought they all had different desserts in their hand, and there were sparklers and whatever, and so they thought this is for other people in the restaurant. This is not for us. And the kids were all mesmerized, and this parade of waiters came to their table and like started putting down all these desserts, the father said, no, we can't, it's not, we don't really, it's out of the budget, we can't really, he said, no, it's on the house. It's on the house, don't worry about it. So he says, why? He says, the waitress was so moved by what she chapped that you did. She saw how sensitive you were, that you didn't want to embarrass her, you didn't want her to lose her job, and she was crying and crying and crying. We asked her, like, why are you crying? She told us the whole story, that she gave you permission to use the restroom, but you didn't want to say that, so you would, even though it seems like you're not wealthy people, but you would rather spend money, and this was going to be the money for the whole trip. They were going home right after this. You would rather do that than to embarrass a woman, a waitress that you don't even know, that you have no shaykhs. You could have easily passed the blame on her, but you didn't. She was so moved and so inspired that this is what we want to do for you. And then when the bill came to the table, it said, there's no bill, it's on us, and next time you come back, it's 50% off. And this boy writes that there was no greater vacation that they ever had. Not because they enjoyed the restaurants, the food was good, he says, but we saw who our father was. We saw what a yid does, how a sensitivity, the midas, that you can never put a price tag on. You can never duplicate that. You have a teaching opportunity and you take advantage of that. There's never, you can't teach that in any school. There's no college that can teach midas. It has to come, when parents have kavanas, l'shem shamayim, they do things right. When they have these decisions to make and they understand the ramifications, that they're far-reaching. Everything that we say in front of our children, everything that we say in front of our wives, everything that we say in front of our chavrusas, to our friends, everything that we do in life, starting from today, we have to understand that these are seeds. We're planting seeds every day. And the trees that come out of these seeds, the Kiddush Hashem that we have opportunities to make, the way we can inspire people by what we do is so powerful. It's so eternal. It never ends.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org